Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 15 of the Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Ben and I were just chatting. We were actually 2 episodes behind in our head. We thought we were only on episode 13, but lo and behold, 15. 15 episodes since we started this crazy adventure. And funny enough, this episode we're talking about coming back from our bushcrafting weekend that we just did this weekend past. The last few casts that we did were kind of revolved around that, so we did go out. We were gone Friday, Saturday. We returned, or sorry, I guess we left late afternoon Friday, all day
Yep.
Saturday, and we came back early afternoon on Sunday to give us lots of time to travel out. But in any case, we were gone. We hit the woods, had a good time. We got some photos. We figured we'd go through them and just kind of talk about our experiences because, as we've mentioned in previous podcasts, that was the first time that you and I had actually gotten out into the woods and done anything bushcrafting related, camping related, just outdoors related, aside from a very brief passing at the very first Nova Scotia Bushcraft event, correct?
Yes. Are we truly broadcasting? 'Cause my video is not showing up.
Uh, says we are. Melissa, if you're on there, I see you join. Can you comment up to see if you're good? It seems to be coming up live on my end.
Yeah, might just be me.
Might have froze up. Ben is you're using your tablet tonight there, aren't you? Kind of a new system here.
Yeah, just seeing if it would work. Says live. Says there's 2 viewers.
Yeah, I got the live and 2 viewers, but it says it's broadcasting on my end.
Okay. I'm just
It
not seeing.
wouldn't be an Atlantic Bushcraft Adventure show if we didn't have at least a little bit of technical difficulty starting out. I mean, 15 episodes, ladies and gentlemen, we still bring you the same great stuff week after week.
Yeah, and like you said, we both thought it was 13. And 15 seems a little surprising, but it has flown by.
It is. It's really surprising. Like I said, I had to go back. I seen it come up, and I was like, episode 15, because normally when I name the episodes and put up the description, I go back and I just see what the last one was, and I just add one into it, and it said episode 14. I'm like, no, there's no way this is episode 15. So I brought up all the videos, and I actually counted them out, and I'm like, holy crap, it is 15 episodes. So yeah, it's been going pretty good.
Yeah, it's 4 months, eh?
Yeah. So pretty much 4 times. Melissa said it's broadcasting now.
Oh,
Has it caught up on yours?
yeah. It's just popped up, and it looks exactly what I expect.
Fair enough. Apparently, she said it was displaying the "will be going live shortly" message for a weirdly long time, though. Which was weird
Yeah.
because it only should have been up there for about 8 seconds. But like I said, it wouldn't be a live show if we didn't have a little bit of technical difficulty.
Well, and that's why I like running the second monitor so we can monitor and see how this is all working.
Yeah,
So,
and I do something very similar on my end, but
yeah.
it is what it is.
Like you said, I'm trying it a bit different with a different viewing device. But
We'll
yeah,
eventually hammer it out, but it's all good. But yeah, so we were gone this weekend.
yeah, we made all our plans. We had everything figured out. We had determined time to leave. We both left, I think, very close to 5 o'clock.
Yep, well, I was running a little late there, but it's in the end, it didn't seem to really make that much of a difference.
No, yeah, I was a couple of minutes behind. I texted you and took off before I could see a response and drove out. I stopped slightly before where I thought the exit would be and switched on an action cam. So you have that video. It will appear eventually on our channel, I assume.
Yep, I was actually just looking at it before we came on live.
Yeah.
I don't know if Facebook's going to take it as an MOV, so I'm going to try uploading it kind of as we're talking, and hopefully it'll be up in the background by the time we're done.
It is ridiculously big. It took a long time for me to upload it. So we'll figure it out. It'll get up eventually, if not tonight.
We have the technology to make it work.
But yeah, and it worked out good. I almost thought I overshot it, and I was kind of worried maybe I was a little ahead of you. So I pulled off, and I think you'll see in the video, like hardly seconds after I pulled off and got back on the road, you were right there, right around the corner. You said you could actually hear me pull off.
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing. I was stopped and I was waiting, and I had my cell phone up, and I'm like, I'm going to catch Ben pulling in. And I thought I heard you coming, and I was like, okay, I got the phone ready, and then it stopped. I'm like, oh, it must have been somebody else. So I went to put the phone away, and I was just kind of turning around to fiddle with the bike or pay with my backpack or something. I heard it start back up, so I started getting the phone back out and getting it up. It was that, yeah, you were literally just like maybe 300 meters up from the road.
Yeah,
Um, but it worked out well. That was a good place to stop, and we got the footage from there on, so it worked out perfect. It was almost
yeah,
like you planned it.
yeah, yeah. Well, had I known, that's where I would have started recording. Honestly, I got a lot of nice video of the farms and the river and stuff coming up because I think I started viewing recording right at the turnoff for Dean on the 289.
That's the first video that I seen there, right where the 289 and the 336 cross.
Yeah. And it was a beautiful ride. It was decent weather. I say decent. I did run into a thunder shower on the way out, or I know thunder, a heavy shower on the way through, just between Stewiacke and Brookfield. You hit nothing but good weather.
Nothing but sunshine. All I seen was dark clouds way off in the distance, and thought, at least they're good and far away.
Not so far from me. But I was pretty close to dry again by the time you see me. So, I mean, they were heavy and hard when they hit, but there wasn't a lot of it, and made it through fine. I mean, I'm not afraid of the rain or anything in a bike, but I do avoid it just because I like to be dry.
Yeah, that's very much felt. Like I try to avoid the rain. I once upon a time wouldn't bother me in the slightest, but now I am 100% a fair weather rider, and I don't even hesitate to say that.
No, no, yeah, it can be fun, but it's just not necessary for me.
Exactly, and I agree 100%.
So I don't think either of us had any trouble packing our gear on. We did feel the extra weight, and it did press against both of us on our backs. Because I had the backrest on mine. You had a cargo.
Yeah, kind of a luggage carrier on the back that extended my seat a little bit so I could strap my pack down. But it worked out well, as you said. We were both kind of tucked up in front of our bags, but it wasn't terrible.
No. I'll definitely do it again. So yeah, so we met up. We met up at the dirt road. We drove up. It was a dirt road, not necessarily the greatest for our bikes, but neither of us had much of a problem. Pushed a few branches and stuff aside because it was grown in a bit, and the ruts go really close to the edge of the road.
Yeah, the ruts were bad. That was the worst of that whole road, in all honesty, because they were deep, and as you said on the our other video there, some of them led right into the woods. So if you got in one, it was tricky to get out.
Yeah. And a different bike with a different suspension and the ability to shift your weight a bit better. Like, my pegs are far enough ahead that it's really difficult to stand up in my bike. Yours probably sit a little bit further back.
Yeah, pretty easy to stand up on mine, but really uncomfortable to stand up on mine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have bad elbows or anything, but I do find that when I try to stand on that bike, I can feel it in the arms because I'm putting a lot of weight to pull myself over the center for that. But again, we had no real issues. Good run. Parked the bikes securely. Found good ground. I had a dry bag. We threw our helmets and stuff in and tucked that out of the way in case someone came by and decided that they were nice looking helmets, I guess. I don't
think anybody was back there. We were back off the road quite far, like even farther than we originally planned. Originally, we only planned on being off the road a couple 100 meters. But by the time it was done, we were off the road by at least a kilometer or more.
Yeah. So we get back there. We set up, and then we decided trails be damned. We'll just beeline it for where we're going. So we bushwhacked through some pretty heavy brush. Full packs on. I had a couple extra bags I was carrying. My camera bag. I think I had my water canteen. And a sling of beer that I had in a little cooler bag. So a little awkward, but not too bad. You were similarly equipped, maybe a little less awkward.
Yeah, all mine was right in the pack and right out the back. Everything went into the pack. When we did arrive, though, Ben lent me a underquilt. So that was the only additional thing I had to really strap onto my back.
Yeah. So we punched through that in pretty good time. We bushwhacked through for going down, we used your GPS, and we did make one little error. We never decided to mark the bikes when we started, so we were in about 30, 40 meters before we said,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
maybe we should have marked the bikes. And that close in, we knew we'd find the bikes anyways, but we did mark it at that point and walked on in. Trail was a bit wet. The woods was quite dry.
Yeah, surprisingly, actually, the bushwhacking was the driest part of everything. Once we hit
Yeah.
the trail, it was for anybody that's been to the waterfalls. There's a couple of people that come on. I know they do. It was that last big hole before you get to the falls is right where we came out. So we had to go through it, and where it had rained so much previously in the week, there was a lot of water in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I gotta say thanks. You had the fly dope out and ready, so we put that on, and that was a pretty important thing at that time
It was,
because
but
we seen almost a solid wall of black flies shortly after we got off the bike. It was pretty thick.
yeah,
Um,
it was something else.
so we got to the water. We could hear the water. We got to the top of the trail and started walking down. It really reminded me of a river I used to go to growing up. Almost the same steepness, but about, I'd say, every bit of twice as high as what I used to do growing up. So pretty secure. Little trip down. You had rope pre-installed. Was it you? You said you installed the rope?
Uh, well, me and my group, we installed some. There was some there previously. It's really the handful of people that know where it's at try to upkeep it as best they can because otherwise that's a pretty nasty hill, as you can imagine, trying to get down with nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. If you had no gear on, it wouldn't be too bad. Like you'd have to be careful, and you'd be going almost tree to tree, just making sure you're secure. But with each of us carting about close to 50 pounds of gear, I think we weighed yours in at about 52.
52, 54, something like that, yeah.
Mine weighed in at 42, 43, but that didn't include the beer, the water, or the camera gear. So I would say I was pretty darn close to your weight for that.
When it was all said and done, for sure. It was very comparable in weight. I was actually surprised at how close we had gotten in weight. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
we have some pictures. If anybody was on the Facebook page already and checked it out, we did put pictures up. I've kind of arranged them in chronological order. So why don't we flip over to them, Ben, and we can just walk through it instead of doubling up over it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, go ahead.
So the first one, if I can figure out how to work this contraption. There we go.
There's my bike.
So yeah, this would be Ben's bike here. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, you can see my pack strapped sideways across the back, and that little black and orange thing, that's my camp chair. I had some stuff stuffed in saddlebags, the underquilt you used, and basically my my water canteen and cell phone, or action camera gear.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Oh no, I was gonna say you can actually see right on the front of your bike there. If
Oh,
you
yeah,
follow my
mounted.
cursor, that's where your action cam was mounted.
Yeah. Yeah, I glued that down the night before. Went out with some isopropyl alcohol, chose a spot and stuck it on there, and it worked out really good. I was kind of worried it might get loose in the drive. I did notice the video is quite loud. My bike is not nearly that loud, and I don't think it's even the same frequencies. I think it has something to do with the reverberations against the windshield.
Yeah, I think it was just what's it called, osculating wavelengths, something like that,
Yeah.
where two things are vibrating at a slightly different frequency, which equals out to a really funky frequency. I can't remember what it's technically called, but something
She
like
almost
that.
sounded like a Harley on the video, but she doesn't in real life. So
No, it actually sounded quite nice. Like anybody that knows me knows I'm not a big Harley fan. I'm not a fan of the big loud exhaust and stuff. I like the style, I like the look. I don't
yeah.
care for the sound. And your bike, it had a real nice real nice sound to it. So, but I guess moving on. So this is just another angle that would give a little better.
Yeah, that sausage like thing, that was my beer.
Oh, this thing here, the
Yeah.
back. I noticed your motorcycle stand too. Very nice. I'd always like to get one of those, but they don't work so well with my plastics.
I'll tell you, I just recently realized that it makes greasing or oiling the chain so much nicer.
I could see
Uh,
that.
so I've been doing it the hard way for years, where I do what I could reach and then back the bike up and do it. Yes, jack stand, really good thing, but not bushcraft related at all.
We digressed. So this was my bike with my pack. You might be able to see the luggage carrier there a little at the back, and basically it's just a ratchet strap and a bungee, and it was pretty secure. I mean, it didn't move at all coming in. Um, but
And
as you,
I followed you up that dirt trail, and it was solid all the way up. So
yeah, I was kind of sketched out about it because I don't have a whole lot of great tie down spots on my bike just by design of it, right? Like you can see, it's not really a bike that's purpose to hauling kind of gear like that, but it worked out really well.
yeah, no, I was impressed.
All right.
I mean, and that pack is quite the bulky pack you got too. So you got some.
Yeah, it's more like a luggage backpack. You know what I mean? We kind of chatted about that. It's huge. It holds a lot, but it's not really not meant for what I did to with it. I don't think it's more like if you're gonna go on the airport kind of deal.
Yeah.
But all right, so once we got there, this was kind of our setup. Ben's there on the left, or the one Tigers. You had all one Tigers gear there, didn't you? The tarp and the hammock.
Tarp and the hammock were one Tigris. Yeah. The under quilt snug pack. Sleeping bag was a no-name Walmart one. So quite a mix of gear, really. But the hammock and tarp are both one Tigris. Yeah.
Okay, and as you can see, mine's there on the right. That was that $50 special I picked up for a tarp. Worked out fairly well. More to come on that on my own channel, so I won't dwell on it too much. The hammock was the one I picked up off GearBest. It worked out rather well. The underquilt was one that Ben had lent me, and I think once it was all set up, both sleep systems were very, very similar, in all
Very
honesty.
comparable. Yes.
But yeah, that's kind of how we set ourselves up. As you can see, we're back in the woods a little bit, and that just kind of provided us a little extra cover, got us a little bit away from the noise of the waterfall. And I do say a little bit.
Yeah. She was a constant roar.
Yeah, you kind of got used to it, but you never really got used to it, if you know what I mean. The whole weekend we were kind of like, huh? To each other a lot. But
And it really made. We were hoping to do more video down there, and I think we both were dissuaded by the constant roar and not really. You'd almost need separate mics that we could have really close.
yeah,
Using the onboard mics would have been a nightmare.
yeah, and I don't have the budget to have a separate mic at this point, but we did get a little video there, and those that check it, you'll hear it. Like I took one of the waterfall that's on the Facebook page. If you listen to it, it's just a constant roar, and that's what we had the entire time we were there with everything we were doing. Um, so this was the very first night we were there.
Yeah.
This was the fire we had gotten going, and we said we were going to do the caveman steaks. Cooked it right on the coals. So this is my steak back here, and yeah, it looks like it's a little charred there in the middle, but believe it or not, that tiny bit of charring there, you never even noticed it when you went to eat it. It was
No.
probably one of the juiciest steaks I've ever had, and if you look back here, that's Ben's cooking back there. And you actually started getting into yours.
Oh, I ate it straight off the fire.
You were still cooking yours and still trying to, yeah. Or sorry, you were eating yours while you were still cooking it.
Oh yeah, I just took the fork and a knife and I just cut a piece off and left it cooking there, and I kept rotating it, so I was just getting like the most cooked piece, and I got the whole thing, but the last little piece rolled into the fire, so I donated that to the fire gods.
You did try to save that twice, though. To be fair, you
Yeah.
tried to get it, and it just kept going back in. So by the time it was all said and done, it had rolled in the coals and the soot and everything else. But
Yeah.
so such is life when you're doing stuff like this. It was fairly dark at this point too. Like we were, what you see there in that photo is, I think it was a flashlight or the flash off the camera. I can't remember what, but anyway, there's a light there. It was pretty dark.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was. It was, yeah, but it was a good night. We I think it was close to 11:30 before we retreated to the hammocks.
Yeah, it was
So we were-
fairly late. I'm trying to think. We just kind of chatted most of the first night. Because most
Yeah.
of the first night, honestly, as soon as we landed on scene, we dropped our packs and gathered up some basics of firewood. We
Yeah.
set that down, then we immediately set up our hammocks and stuff. Because by the time we got into where we were going to be camping, it must have been about 7 o'clock. So we only had like 2.5 hours of useful daylight left by the time we landed in.
We were checking out each other's gear and stuff and how to set things up and looking at your new tarp and my whoopee slings or no, they were utility constrictor ropes.
Yeah, I was gonna say they weren't the whoopee slings because I called them
Yeah.
whoopee slings.
And I was worried mine were going to slip, so I put a couple of toggles on them in case it slipped, and they never moved an inch. Yours stretched, which we came up with a unique solution later for,
But it worked. But yeah,
yeah.
I unfortunately could not. And they were in my truck anyway. That's another inside thing. But I couldn't find the straps to my hammock. And I mean, I looked everywhere for them for 3 days, and at the end of it, I was just like, "Screw it! I'll take the ones that came with it." And never used the straps or ropes that comes with your hammock because they're generally pretty low quality and they will stretch. And that's what happened the first night. By the first night we set it up, it looked good. By the time I woke up, there was probably like 3 to 4 inches of extra sag in that just didn't need to be there. But anyway, moving on. Actually, here's a better angle of your steak. So you had gotten it in between two pieces of wood there, and you were kind of grilling it over it. It actually came out really well. Both steaks came out good, in my opinion.
I think so.
And I mean, it was surprising how little coal and ash was actually on the steak from sitting right on the coals. And I guess the secret was get your coals just to where they're nice and red, like almost charcoal from a barbecue, and fire your steak on then. Don't wait until it powders down and basically ash. And that's kind of what we did, and it worked out well. Like I said, I didn't have any soot or any real charcoal taste or otherwise in my mouth. What about you, Ben? Did you find similar?
No, it was really good. I had brought some sauce I was going to put onto it, but I never even bothered it. And I had it pre-spiced in the bag, so it all worked out good for me. So no, that's about all we got to add for that. Good steak, good conversation that night. Here's your morning breakfast.
So this was the morning breakfast. I made oatmeal. I goofed up, made way too much oatmeal. Kind of a novice at making oatmeal. I figured a cup, it's probably going to be the only thing I eat today, so that'd be good. It was way too much. So, but mind you, it was a cup of oatmeal. I crushed up some nuts, threw in with it, and if you see this little brown sliver kind of in the right side, to add a little sweetness, I broke off a piece of chocolate bar and jammed in it and let it melt and stirred it up. And it was actually pretty tasty. It was actually really tasty, but it was just too much.
It looked good when you were pushing it. I wish, had we known it was going to, because as you started pushing that thing right down the center, if we had video, that just went in pretty nice looking. But yeah, no, it was a good looking breakfast. I had an egg omelet that I had more or less pre-prepared at home in a little tiny mason jar, and I just threw it in my pot. I don't know if I got video or pictures of that.
None that were sent to me, but I was quite jealous of the omelet, to be honest with you. It looked delicious.
Yeah.
I mean, the oatmeal was fine, but that omelet it looked absolutely delicious. I'm not even going to lie. But
that's something we've been doing for a few years is taking eggs, especially for the first morning. I find eggs last long enough to do that anyways.
So all you did was cut everything up and put it in a mason jar, right?
Yeah, I had some chunks of cheese. I had some sausage that I cooked a couple of days before and had already pre-cut up, and I just threw it all in a mason jar, and I put a fair bit of butter right on top and just sealed the whole thing up and kept it in a small cooler bag that I had taken with some frozen meats and stuff. And yeah, come in the morning there, I just opened it up, poured it in the bowl, put it on next to the nice warm coals. I think I got up the first morning.
Yeah, you were up first the first morning.
Yeah, and I put it in. It cooked in no time. You came and got your breakfast. We fiddled around the site, got some more wood and stuff, and got ready for some fishing.
Yeah, that was when I dunked my foot.
Oh,
so,
yes.
Yeah, so the very first day, I think I was actually cleaning my cup out from breakfast. I went to kneel down and my foot slid right into the water, right up to the ankle, completely soaked me. So I actually got kind of semi sort of stranded at the camp just because I couldn't go too far with the foot off, but we still managed to get some fishing in. You were
Oh
able
yeah.
to go a little further down the road, and as you said, we still got some wood and stuff. But we did do some fishing. I guess these are a little out of order, but this was the handrail you had carved up. I think this was towards the end of, well, not the end. I guess the middle of the fishing. This is when you started carving this up, was it not?
Yeah, that was a semi-success. I cleaned the bark off, and that made it a little better. But originally, it was hooking a lot, and I thought I had more rope on that or line on that piece of spool I had taken. So I was kind of hoping to get about 12 to 18 feet onto that, and I think I got just under 10. So it worked out. I think I caught at least one fish on that.
I think you got two when it was all said and done. Because you had five, but ended up losing one. And there's a
Yeah,
story about that.
sad story. It was, I swear, like always, it was the biggest fish, and I caught it up by the fall, and I got back to our campsite, and I got it off the hook, and I was keeping my fish in a cooking pot, and as I dropped it in, it flipped and managed to land right on the ground next to the river, and by the time I reached down to grab it, it hit the edge of the shore, and it was gone.
And it really wasn't that far from where we were keeping the fish to the river. Like, this isn't that a grand story of it flipped like 10 feet down the road. It was like there was a big rock, the pot sitting on top of it. As soon as it hit the bottom of the rock, it was like inches from the river, and then into the river it went.
Yeah.
So.
And I think around that exact same time is when you were pretty sure you had caught a pretty big fish, but before you kind of got it fully out of the water, it got away at the same time.
Well, yeah, I'll flip back to this because I was using something much like this, which was just kind of. You were using this at the start too.
Now, this is mine because you're up ahead.
Yeah, I'm over here cleaning something out, but this one here, when we first started, this is what our bow setups were like. It was just an alder twitch with maybe 10 feet of line, two basic lead weight solders, and a hook.
Yeah. Right now in this particular picture, I've lost most of my hooks, and I went to my alternate. It has a little.
Oh, that little red lure, but
pink. Looks like some kind of fish with a hook out of its head.
But yeah, no. I eventually made it over to this rock. I crossed the river at a point. And I was standing on this rock, and literally as I was pulling the string up, I didn't find that the bites were super hard sometimes. Like, they just kind of sluggishly grabbed onto it. And anyway, as I was pulling what I thought was just the bait out of the water, it got heavier and heavier and heavier as I got closer to the top of the water, and I pulled it up, and literally there was a fish there, and then of course he just let go and fell off. I never even knew it was there. But that's pretty much the only luck I had the entire weekend. You were the fish slayer, but I was kind of the fish jester. So this was actually the first fish that you caught.
And you can see it's massive, right? Like that's every bit of 4 inches.
It has to be, but I mean, we were actually impressed because at first we were like, okay, this is a pretty ragtag setup, and then our bait was the best. So we were skinning some logs and we found some grubs and stuff, and Ben's like, no, screw that, I'm gonna try a piece of my pepperette. And honestly, I was like, okay, Ben, yeah, go for it. And in the back of my head, I'm like, there's no fish alive gonna bite on a pepperette. And it was like 2 minutes later, you walked in with this fish.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you looked a little surprised because I don't think I had it in more than, they said 2 minutes. I just walked up, found a spot, I tossed it in, and I think almost right away I got like a nibble. And I think maybe the third toss I caught it. So.
Yeah, it wasn't long. I was still setting up my tarp.
Yeah.
Or I was fine-tuning my tarp, I should say, because I had a little bit, I had that weird setup with the rock coming down. I was trying to make sure nothing rubbed. But yeah, it wasn't long. I thought you were literally crazy for trying a pepperette. But I mean, at the same time, it was like, okay, it's all we have, so why not? And it worked. It worked great. And later on, something you taught me that I didn't even know worked was fish eyes. Taking the eye out of a fish. And it worked amazingly well.
Oh yeah, I think I put that on. That was immediately caught a fish. But then I didn't have much luck after that. So I think we kind of fished it out.
Yeah, we fished for quite a while. We fished for longer than we actually intended to, but it was fun. We were enjoying it, and it was just good sport, honestly.
Well, when you're catching something, like that's the thing, and it doesn't even matter if you're catching. If somebody's catching something, it's there. It's kind of like elusive. You're
Yeah, it
getting
keeps
the
you
eye of the whole-
motivated.
Yeah, and yes, you made it across the river line before I did. There's one I just cooked it up almost like a wiener on a stick.
And it came
Um,
out well. That's how I did my first one, and it came out well.
yeah,
Ben was nice enough to give me two of the fish he had caught. But yeah, no, it came out really well. And a secret you said as we were eating them, and excuse me if I'm giving away great family secrets here, but you said to leave the head on them, it keeps the body straighter.
yeah, and I don't know why it is, but when we were cooking fish growing up, especially these pan-sized ones, we never cut the heads off. I know a lot of people do. We left them in because we find, and I don't know why, if you cut the heads off when you're frying it up, it curls up into a C. But if you leave the heads on, they tend to stay flatter. And I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it always seemed to work for us. So.
You know what? You're right, because you said it after I'd cut the head off one while I was cleaning it. So I said, okay, I'll leave the head on one and I'll cut the head off the other one. Well, the one I cut the head off basically curled around into this great big knotted
Yeah.
up C, and that one didn't. It stayed perfectly straight while I was cooking it. I mean, it curved a little bit at the tail, but nothing, no
Yeah.
major amount. I think we actually have a picture of them cooking here a little bit. Yeah, there you go. You're literally just roasting it like a hot dog. And it
Yeah.
worked well. Worked really well.
And that's the first time I've done that method. Usually I've always done frying pan, a little bit of flour, and some butter. But we were trying more minimalist ideas, more backwoods style stuff, and I said, this is easy.
And it worked. For those pan fry, it worked excellent. It didn't take any time at all to cook them.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more salt on it would have been good.
So there it is. As it got cooked up, it got a little
Yeah.
close into the coals there, but it really didn't ruin the fish. I did the same thing with mine.
Yeah.
So the
Kinda
next. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I said I just kind of cooked it till the skin kind of bubbled off, but then I figured it was done.
Yeah, because fish doesn't take long to cook anyway.
So here's our solar panel. We both had basically the same one.
We had the
I
exact
was-
same one each.
Yeah, I was really impressed with this. When you had decent sun, that thing put a decent charge in the phone pretty quick. If I was doing a multi-day trip, taking that and a couple of battery power supplies to top up your devices when there is no sun, and you could probably go indefinitely with that thing and still have power.
Well, when we came out, I had thrown it on my motorcycle. Okay, backing the story up a little bit. I thought I shut my phone off at 85% on the last night. And then when I turned it on the next morning, it was down to, I think I said 24%, Ben?
Yeah,
Anyway, it was
yeah.
a drastic drop, so I must have forgot to shut it off and just put it in standby or something. But anyway, we got out to the bikes, and we were setting up to do the trap video. And I just threw it on the gas tank with the phone, and I mean, we were only working at that for what, an hour, maybe?
Yeah, about that.
And my
Yeah,
phone
yeah.
was basically fully charged by the time we were done.
Yeah.
So,
So a great device. I highly recommend these for. I think, especially what's in my mind right now, canoe trips. I'm going to definitely be taking this. I do like a nice canoe trip, and I'm hoping to do one this year. So, it's
do you have
definitely
it
on
right
my.
there, Ben? I flipped you back over. I thought you were going to...
I actually do.
Yeah, there you go. So these are BE ones. We caught them on a whitening deal on Amazon for like, what was it, $20 or something?
Yeah, it was a super deal. I think they're normally like $65 or something. And they were
Yeah,
on
65
for
or
like
70.
yeah, and they were on for like $18, $22. I can't remember exactly what I paid. I could look it up, but
It was worth every penny regardless.
yeah, it showed up. I was really impressed with how it was all packaged up, and it came with some carabiners. It folds out. It seems like a really good quality. You know, nice heavy material that it's made from. You feel like you could take this. You could lots of tie points. There's 5 tie points. You could strap this to the back of your pack and have it hanging out over the top, and just it's got a little pocket you can fit your phone or something into and charge things while you walk if you had to. Like lots of options.
It's one of the few items that if I boated a lot or something like that, I would probably be inclined to pay full value for it now that I know how it works. Don't get me wrong, super stoked I got mine on sale, and I hope everybody gets the same deal. Just keep your eyes open. I'm sure they'll go back on sale. But if you are looking for a mobile power source, if you have direct sunlight, and we did say it has to be direct sunlight. Cloudy sunlight didn't work, and direct sunlight didn't work. It has to be good, strong, direct sunlight. But
Yeah,
if
when
you
it dropped, the sun for me, because we're down in a valley and you only really get a narrow band of sun. Um, Once it dropped just below the treetops and it was peeking through the trees, I did find an intermittent charge, and I really only gained 2 or 3% after that. So it was basically a maintaining charge at best after that. Uh, but when it was up, I went from I think 65% to almost 100% in almost no time. My phone doesn't charge super fast normally, so that's a solid your 2 amps, and it wasn't on there for very long. So
No, it works great. That's what I mean. It's one of the few products I probably would pay full value for now, knowing how well it works. Especially if you were boating, because then you're out in the water and you don't have a lot to block the sunlight.
well,
But
and
oh,
if
sorry.
you're going to video like we were planning on, we didn't get as much video as we hoped. I had taken, and I have it here. I can kind of show it. I had taken this little charger device, and it charges the batteries for my action cam. So I could have, with these, we could have took a ton of video, and I had a bunch of SD cards. Again, it just wasn't a necessity this time, but it's there, and I'm going to start practicing more with video while tripping. And I know from other YouTubers and stuff that it is a lot of work, and it takes time away from your trip. Like, it is an investment for your viewer to spend the time doing it, and you really should appreciate the guys that do it. We're not those guys yet.
No, but we'll slowly get there. I mean, this was our first outing, so a lot
Yeah.
of it was feeling each other out, for lack of a better term, just getting used to each other in the woods, and it worked out well. We were very similar in a lot of aspects. We worked fairly well together, and I mean, I thought it was a good time.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I look forward to doing another one. I know, unfortunately, it probably won't be as often as either of us would like. We both have young families and stuff and a lot of commitments, but
But maybe sometime we can get the entire families involved. We'll take the young
oh,
ones out
definitely.
and do something like that.
I got told as I was leaving by my oldest that I had to take her, and I just, on that bike with the pack, there's no room.
Yeah.
But she loves those kind of trips. My middle daughter's a little less. My youngest daughter, I think, would do it without a complaint at all, and my wife loves it. So
No, we're definitely gonna have to arrange a family trip of some sort, even if it's just to like one of the camping parks or something like that, so for a little ease of access for the kids. But I'm I think it'd be fine either way. We can figure something
yeah,
out
I
for
got the
sure.
cabin too, right?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That'd be a good one too. We'll have to arrange a weekend.
We got almost the whole lake. We could even take the hammocks and go across the lake. There's a bunch of spots we can set up and stuff, and just everyone can have a little bit of what they want. Yeah.
That sounds like a plan. We'll have to be in. We'll have to figure that one out, and that'll be the grand trip number 2.
Yeah.
So the next one we get up is the elusive whistle, and we actually had quite a bit of feedback on the Facebook page about these whistles, and it was kind of just a fun thing for us. I really wanted to learn how to do it. Ben taught me how to
Yeah.
do it. 100% give him the credit for it, but it was just kind of a fun little thing. But it has gotten the most attention on the Facebook.
It's a neat little trick. It's a trick taught to me by my father. A guy, Lee Seymour, was one of the first ones to mention it. He went to school with me in college in Gander. He said he used to make them as a kid, so I don't know if this is kind of a newfie thing, but it is a hell of a lot of fun to make and play with. They do dry out after a while. The one I got, I brought it to work. I have it sitting on my desk, and it's now struggling to toot. How's yours doing?
All 3 of mine went the same way. The only one that still works really well was the little one, believe it or not.
The
The micro
micro.
whistle.
That is impressive. That little tiny one you made is impressive. I'm not sure I could match it, but someday I'm going to try.
It wasn't hard. It's just it was fluke, I guess, but it turned out to be the loudest. It's not pictured there because I kind of banged it out right before dark, and it was just kind of a joke more than anything, but it turned out working really well. It's like the
Like
size of my pinky finger.
you got into a groove and almost, I wouldn't say obsessive, but just really wanting to figure it out and experiment with it, which I thought was great. Like I said, I can tell anyone the basics, but you have to play with it to really get it and see what works and what doesn't work.
And you can say
And
obsessed because my wife would agree with you. Anything that I get interested in, I get obsessed with figuring out how it's supposed to work so I can do it again. As I told you, I learn by hands-on doing. So learning
yeah,
what not to do is just as valuable to me as learning what to do.
I'm very similar in that way, so I fully understand. So yeah, that's a great little um, trick. It works really good in the spring. It gets significantly harder as the year goes on. And I was even talking to my mother, and she repeated that to me when I was talking to her. That Dad used to love making them in the spring's the time to do it because the bark will release relatively easy, and as the year goes on, it binds to the wood better. So
Yeah, and we found that with some of the pieces we had that. Well, the first one I went to do, it was really hard to let go, but that could have been my form as well because I got easier over time.
oh yeah, yeah, you kind of develop a knack for it.
That's the easiest way to say it. Yeah, maybe sometime we'll do a quick video on how to do it. Might be next spring now before it gets hammered off, but future plans, right?
Yeah.
So what else do we got? Oh yes, so these are the figure four deadfalls we worked on. So Ben and I have a little game going for anybody that's viewing and wants to listen in. We have Ben
Who
Gerald
made which one?
O'Brien remembers your dad showing you guys how to make whistles. Just happened to
Yes.
pop up, but
Yeah, so that's my cousin. He's out in BC now.
oh, fair enough. Well, thanks for joining in. Sorry, I I digress slightly. So yeah, we did a couple of figure four deadfalls, and Ben and I are going to leave it to you guys to figure out who did which one. So the first two pictures that we're going to show you are the first figure four deadfall, and that would be this picture and this picture, just from different angles. And then the next two pictures are of the second figure four deadfall, which is just from, I think, the same two angles, basically. Oh no, the second one comes in a little closer, I think. Yeah, but anyway, both similar. I mean, they're made identically. Ben did one, I did one. This was the first time you had made one, was it not, Ben?
Yes, I was going to say one hint is mine is the first one I've ever made, and you taught me so.
Well, that's saying a lot there, because who knows if I even taught you correctly. Actually, you hammered it out better than I did the first time. I was sitting there and it's like, yeah, I've done it before, and I just got to kind of figure it out. And I fumbled and went with it a little bit, and then you just, bam, hammered yours out right afterwards, and it worked out great. So
Well, the
just,
trick is after you start it, I then had something to go off of. So what I literally did is I cheated. I seen where you had made what I considered
errors.
less than, yeah, less than perfect builds and said, oh, I would adjust this and that now. You know, there's a couple of things I'd change about mine now if I was to do it again.
That's the thing. After you do it a handful of times, you fine tune it. I've only done it a handful of times previously as well. Same kind of thing as the whistle. Somebody showed me how to do it. I obsessed over it for about 10 minutes, and then I hadn't done it again in years. This was the first time I had done it in probably 5 years that I can remember. And it was just kind of getting the old brain juices going again to say, okay, yeah, now I remember how it goes. But the key concept is, which ones show it better? So you have your lever stick here, which is going to have a 7 notch and a angle notch on the end. And then you can kind of see the angle notch at the back sits in a 7 notch on the far end of your lever stick. And in the middle, you kind of have two platform joints, and the whole thing pivots together. And we will do a little better explanation of this later on as well. But between the four pictures, I think that's the quick and dirty explanation of it. I mean, there's hundreds of videos on YouTube that show how to do these things, and I'm not going to pretend that I can teach people better than they can. So it's fair game. But
No,
later on, maybe we will try to do our own little video as well on these. This was one of the challenges we had set out when we went into the woods, was to make some basic traps. The other one was to do the fishing, which we accomplished with ribbons on, I believe.
yeah.
The water situation, I think that's our next pictures coming up. Yep. So this is your water system, Ben, and I'll let you go through it.
Yeah, so this is a hydration bag, I guess they call them. The black tube on top slides off and it opens up sort of like a Ziploc bag. Uh, I really like this system because you can scoop water up out of a lake or a river real easy. The ones that come with the cellular, yeah, just have a hole about the size of a pop bottle cap, and filling those are really hard. I just cut the tube, put my cellular mini in the middle. I hang it from a tree and put my bottle underneath it, and it's gravity feed. I don't bother with the squeeze method. And the only downside, as Robert can attest to, is I tend to forget that it's there and it overflows every time.
Yeah, there was
So
a bit of overflowing, but
I lose a bit, but I ended up with a full bottle every time. And honestly, it's no big deal. Those things can filter like 100,000 gallons of water or something in their lives. So
and you were losing maybe a cupful at a time. You know
yeah,
what I mean? So no big deal. I mean, I guess it adds up a little bit over time, but not any significant amount towards 100,000 gallons.
yeah. And by the time I use up 100,000 gallons, then I'd say I got my money's worth out of it many times over.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I this was one of the items I picked up to try while we were out because I had never used the Sawyer Mini before. I always used boiling method, and it was dirt cheap. It was $31, I think, delivered to the door, and I got mine in bright orange. Yeah, you can
Yes.
see it right there. So that's mine. That's the bright orange. This is all that comes with it. Is this bag that you see me up here trying to get the water out of, and that thing is terrible to try and fill. As Ben said, you need moving water. If you just dunk it in the water, you've already defeated. It's just not going to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, I've used different methods over the years because I've used the pot, fill up the pot, and then pour it in like a stream.
Mm-hmm.
That works. Uh, I've tried putting it on and like pulling it through the water.
It semi
That's
sort
got
of works.
yeah, semi kind of works.
I
Like
found
you
the
see,
wiggle back and forth method worked well for me, which is kind of literally like milking the bag in the river. There's no other way to put it. You just jiggle it back and forth, and it seems to fill the bag up better. So, but I mean,
so
bottom line is it's hard to get water in that tiny bag. It's 16 ounces, I think you said.
that's what that bag was. Yeah, I read off the side, and honestly, like you found that was almost enough to fill that tiny bottle that you were filling.
Yeah, it was like
Uh,
1.5 to fully fill just a normal small water bottle.
They also sell a 32 and I think a 64. I have some of those. Actually, I can see what I have right here. If you don't mind me walking away from you.
Nope, I'll go back to the picture and we'll see what the next one is. So, next one up would have been, the beer weir. Of course, I thought this was a classic one to include. So what we did was not we, Ben, exclusively made a small weir to keep the beer in. So I think this is Saturday night we come up with this great brainchild. And Ben builds the
Yeah,
beer weir. And he's sitting there, he's like, oh, I made a weir for my beer. And it just kind of became the running gag for the night, was the beer weir. So, but it worked. It worked well.
yeah, I enjoyed that. 4 beer was way more than we needed.
Yeah, I was gonna say you ended up taking one home.
Yeah,
We
I
did
definitely
not drink
did.
a lot, so anybody that's out there thinking we went in the woods and got smashed, you're wrong. We took a few sips of beer, basically just to have a social drink with at night before we went to sleep, if that makes any kind of sense. I think I took 4 light beer, each of 4%, and Ben took 4 of varying differences, like just different brands and stuff like that. And Ben left and went home with one. So, I mean, we weren't back there getting hammered by any stretch of the imagination, but it was nice. At the end of the first night, especially after we were all, like, we put out a ton of effort trying to get set up in such a short amount of time, and I have to say, it tasted pretty good at the end of the first night for sure. I don't know what the next picture would be. So, yeah, and the last picture in the set, or the first picture, depending on which way you're looking at it on Facebook, is just the set of the falls itself. So the falls are actually pretty nice. They were running way, way heavier than they normally do, and way heavier than I thought they would when I suggested this location. And that's why we had all that extra noise and stuff like that. And probably the reason why it's definitely the reason that we got so cold the second night, because it just had a heavy mist hammering down on us at all times. Like it was the stuff we had left out by the fire was soaked in the morning, like almost like it had rained, kind of soaked.
Yeah, and the tarps were dry, so we know it didn't rain. But yeah, it was cold. And I'm not trying to whine or complain, but we were both pretty chilled that night. Sitting around the fire was kind of okay. Uh, Went to our respective hammocks, got everything set up, and I think we were probably only into an hour or two. I got up to adjust some stuff, and you got up at the same time. You ended up adjusting some of your gear. Then I ended up pulling I had a down blanket over. I ended up pulling that in the sleeping bag with me. I think you said you did something similar with your.
Yeah, my wool blanket ended up on the second night. I ended up when you said I got up. I had my long johns on. I ended up putting a second pair of socks on. I threw my pants back on, threw my shirt on over my long johns, and put my coat on, and then pulled the wool blanket around me, and then slid in my sleeping bag and jumped back in the hammock.
So in comparison, the first night I just had the down quilt thrown on top of me, and I was just wearing boxers and a t-shirt.
Yeah, and the first night I literally just wore my long johns, and I was pretty fine too.
But the second night there was a definite chill to the air, and it made a big difference. And I've slept out in -20 before, with obviously appropriate gear. So I don't mind the cold, and I learned one other lessons from that night is do not. And this isn't relevant to everyone, but I kind of don't get enough salt in my diet, and if I don't eat salt, I get muscle cramps, and I definitely had them that night. So I had a fun night, and barely made it through.
I'm gonna Okay, here goes nothing. I'm gonna transition back. Hopefully, have a video, and hopefully, it has sound. So there's a lot of hopefuls in this one, but just to give people the idea of the falls, and you tell me if this plays, Ben.
It's moving.
I'm hoping everybody gets the falls background there. I honestly don't know with this program, but anyway, yeah, this was the falls when we first got there, and there's Ben. I think we literally just got on location, and we were just sitting down, and it was loud. It was very, very loud the entire time.
Oh yeah, the noise can be heard. Bit of a delay to.
And this is likewise. This is just a picture of our fire. We kept about a fire this big going most of the time. Wasn't rip roaring, but we had a very interesting time finding firewood. But as you can see, just with this little video, that noise in the background is constantly there. It's always just constant. It never stopped. You know what I mean? But yeah. And I guess the last part of that was the climb. That was about the last significant thing to talk about, I think. Because it was quite the climb coming out of there and down into there, as we said, right?
Yeah, and video doesn't do it justice, so we can hit it like.
I'll just turn the sound off and we can. So, anyway, like Ben said, this is me going up the hill. And the video doesn't do it justice. I mean, it looks a little steep, but not really that bad. But trust me, it's I don't want to say it's that bad, but it's way worse than it looks. You know what I mean?
I would almost estimate that you went up close to. It looked to me like I had you in that video more.
Oh, you probably do. It's just because of the scaling on the window. I don't know if I can get that down or up or yeah. That's just me and the way it's copying over. I am at the top of it up there. It just didn't scale right for the streaming purposes.
But you probably really go 25 feet forward, but you went like 50 feet straight up. Like,
yeah, it's quite the climb. Bottom line, it was. I was trying to see if I had that one from where you got to the top.
I notice you're avoiding the pencil trick, eh?
Oh no! I just haven't found a good way to come up with that yet. But seeing you brought it up, yeah, let's talk about it. So we were sitting around. It was was actually, it was right after this. I do have a video for that, believe it or not. If I can make it come up here. Just give me one sec.
We did quite a bit of carving, and
Yeah, we did.
So we knew it was supposed to rain, and I went and I split up some hardwood. I'm not sure. I think it was maple, and I cut a couple of lengths and I split them with the axe, and then I gave you a couple of pieces, and I kept a couple of pieces to myself.
So yeah, this was also a new saw for you. Not a new saw to you, but new to use in the woods. Was that? Am I saying that right?
I've had it for just over a year. I've taken it a couple of times. I really have enjoyed it. But no, it's not well used by any means, just because opportunities in need. I don't tend to find I have to cut a lot of stuff in the woods, but I am proud of it. Like, it's a good, compact, lightweight saw. And it's fairly popular in the bushcraft world right now, and hiking and stuff. And we spoke a bit about this. Like, we're both kind of axe guys. We both enjoy taking the axe and having the axe. But I think the saw got used probably significantly more than the axe did.
It did, especially in our firewood situation. We were bucking up a lot of firewood.
Yeah. And this went through almost butter smooth. And that's the problem I think I've had. I've had a few saws that weren't great, and I found them almost more exhausting to cut with than my axe.
Yeah, I have to admit, that one was a super nice working axe.
Or saw.
Saw, sorry, yeah. Anyway, super nice, smooth working saw. So, Ben had just cut off the blocks, and we were starting to carve, and we were going to carve spoons. So I was sitting down, and I was looking at this piece of wood, and I was starting to debark it, and all of a sudden I look up, and Ben has a pencil, and he's drawing out this shape of a spoon, which at first I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I'm like, wait, how did he get a pencil? Did he just carve a pencil? And literally, for no word of a lie, 2 seconds, I'm just looking in awe going, how did this man just carve a pencil that can physically draw? And then it dawned on me, of course, he just brought a pencil. But for 2 solid seconds, I looked on in just complete astonishment. And that was the running joke for me for the weekend, was the carving the pencil trick. But I mean, now, literally, it was just complete awe.
I did carve you a pencil after that, and it marked.
You did, and it worked. You carved up a little. It was about
spruce branch.
Was it spruce? Yeah, I was gonna say it was a little spruce branch about the size of my finger, and you burnt the tip. And it did work as a pencil, but not quite as well as that one that you had, because you were fancily just tracing it in and going to work. And that's what I thought, was maybe it was just a piece of charcoal on the end of a stick. But then when you were like drawing it in so well, I was just like, what sorcery is this? But yeah. Anyway, that was the joke there. But I have that last video pulled up for the climb up, and you can hear the waterfalls not quite as loud. And as you said, this is quite far up, because that's the top of the rope section. And then you come another 10 to 15 feet towards me, and then we're still another, I don't know, several feet before we actually get to the top of the hill.
Yeah, and from this top of this rope, it slopes out to maybe like a 45-degree angle. It's much more reasonable. That's
technically.
Yeah, it's a good workout to walk up. Like, I felt the burn in my legs for sure.
People should believe me when I say there's a little bit of a hill, eh?
I think I mentioned there that at that point there, I'm still significantly less than I used to weigh without a pack. So.
But yeah, it was quite the hill, and yeah, we had talked about it, and I think we figured it out, or you figured it out. Even if with all the weight in the pack and what you weigh now, it's still less than what you did before.
Yeah, well, if you consider, say, even 50 pounds, so I'm about 185 now, so that's 15 after 50, so that's 35. So still 70 pounds shy of what I used to weigh.
So, I mean, that's an amazing amount of loss, in all honesty.
Yes. But, and strangely, like, I would have still walked up that hill almost as well then with the pack on, because I always did hike and stuff. So, yeah, it's more of a want for me than at the time a need. But I find it interesting, really. So yeah, we climbed out. We went back. Going back, we used an app on my phone.
Yeah, and it
And
worked really well.
we had just looked at the map. There's the satellite picture on the map on my phone, and we had no cell reception out there at all. So this is all stuff that was downloaded previous, and we had guesstimated where the bikes were based on the satellite image, and it dropped us within a couple of feet of the bike.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we're less than 3 feet away by the time your phone dinged to say we're on spot.
Yeah,
I mean, we could spit on the bikes, literally.
Yeah. And we get back there, and nothing was touched on the bikes. They were in perfect condition. Nothing sunk or moved.
Neither. It was great. Like, it literally looked exactly as we left them.
So,
and then once we got out, we moved our bikes down to the landing. Started packing some of our stuff back on. We did a short video on spring pole snares, which you can find on the Facebook page. I'm not going to show it here because it is 4 or 5 minutes long. But it's just a quick video on spring pole snares and how to set them. And then we did our closing remarks, which we did in front of the bikes, which I'm going to upload to our YouTube channel. And then probably back it to the Facebook channel, because we're kind of doing it right now on the Facebook channel, which is basically all we did at the end of the other video. So honestly, you're just going to get more of the same, just in a different flavor. We're going to be sitting in front of the bikes, and we may have a few different comments for more recent things, but basically we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah. How did the sound quality on that turn out? Good?
Not bad, actually. It came out pretty good because the wind was fairly high. The bugs were fairly ferocious. Like, I mean, I don't know if you can... Yeah, you can still see all down the back of my arm. I'm still chewed to snot. And I mean, that's basically how it went the entire time. Was there's right under the waterfall wasn't bad. We had that nice natural cool breeze. It blew everything away. As soon as you got away from the waterfall for any stretch, you were just
much
swarmed.
Much further than the hammocks, and you were starting to get swarmed.
Yeah.
And I went quite a ways down the river a couple of times. And found a couple of nice pools and stuff. I tried fishing them, and you couldn't really stay down there for much time without
some sort of bug spray.
Yeah, it's somewhat limited out there. I don't think there's a ton for the flies to eat. We didn't see much wildlife other than the fish we caught.
And a few birds, and that's about it. I didn't see a squirrel, didn't see a rabbit. We seen some coyote scat on the walk back out.
And I heard something with the roar of the waterfall. I couldn't pick out if it was even a bird or a coyote, but it was a...
Yeah,
could have been a bark.
Yeah,
could have been a hoop. What?
I remember when you were saying it, I kind of heard it, and I couldn't really put my finger on what it sounded like.
Well, a couple times you even said it sounded like a voice, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't even tell if water was boiling because of the river moving rocks. It sounded the same as water boiling in a pot. So you'd have a pot and a thing, and next thing you say, I would ask you, is the water boiling? You'd, no, not at all. And you'd open the lid, and sure enough, like, nowhere close to boiling.
It's still just lukewarm. And that was one thing we did find, was the waterfall kind of just the noises played tricks on us a little bit. But there was just so much water moving. I mean, like, there was a ton coming over the falls, as you've seen in the video. And then, like you said, that would push rocks and stuff in the river beside us. And it was just noises you couldn't really put a finger on right away. So you try and make it relate to the closest possible sound, which was like water boiling or people talking, or might have been animal noises. Like, you know what I mean? Nothing freaky, don't get me wrong. It was just, it caused a lot of false noises.
Yeah, so, I mean, overall, a very successful trip. Learned a lot. Good company, good times. I'm kind of looking forward to doing something again. We're going to definitely switch it up if we do another one. I don't know what the switch up could be. Could be a nice hike. Could be some kind of water trip. Could just be the family get together that we're discussing. And I definitely hope to do something in the fall. And I'd like to do something like every season as we go ahead with this, if that's somehow possible.
Yeah, it's definitely something we can try to arrange. Going forward, like you said, a switch up would be good. The first one was good, just where it was fairly simple. We kept things simple. The only thing we did not accomplish was we didn't make our camp chairs, and that was simply because, and we talk about it in the other video, but we didn't really want to cut a lot of live trees, and we didn't have a lot of dead wood to work with. It was either rotten or alive. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
we stressed getting firewood at certain points.
I did find a big softwood, and I'd cut it. You had actually discovered it after I'd cut it, that you seen it there, and I told you my thought was I was almost thinking, could we like split that using wedges and stuff, but the effort and time and the flies down there and the weight, it was probably close to what, 18 feet long.
Yeah, it was long, and we would have struggled pretty hard to get moved that anywhere. We would have had to have almost worked right where it was. And like you said, it was kind of in a little bit of a marsh, and the bugs were really bad there.
And I'm not there's a couple of things we could have done with it, I guess. There's a lot of good bushcraft ideas that we could come up with for saw, and it just wasn't going to work out that time. And with the rocks that were there, and I had that little chair, there wasn't a strong need for it.
No, we didn't. I sat in the rocks the entire weekend. We weren't towards the end of it. We should have been sitting on our pillows. Tailbones got a little sore.
That was a stroke of genius on your part.
I just couldn't do it anymore. My tailbone was too sore. But other than that, I guess the only other thing to mention is I did have 2 ticks on me when I got home. You had none though.
No.
And I know I picked them up when we went through that marsh. When we came back out, we followed a slightly different. Well, there was no trail. We took a different. We were supposed to be coming the same way out, but I mean we were off by 10, 15 feet one direction or another. And we ended up in a little marsh area, and we walked into some long grass there, and I bet you nickels to dollars that's where I picked it up.
Yeah, we definitely hit some of our own footprints, though. I seen them.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was interesting that we ended up on a very similar trail. But I guess when you're in that kind of area, you're using the GPS. I mean, 2 different GPSs. We weren't backtracking our same trail, but there's a kind of an easy path through the woods sometimes and a hard path, and it's fairly obvious. So when there's open and clear spots, you aim for them, and I'm
that's
sure
all it was. I think when we got into that marsh area, is that one thicket where we had to punch through. We just kind of put our heads down and punched through it, and we probably came out a little lower, a little higher than. Well, it was definitely a little lower than we had done previously. But once we walked up above it, like literally 20 feet, I think is what we figured out it was. We were right back onto the same spot we were. That's when we started seeing our tracks and stuff again. So we were very close to the way in for taking our way out. But yeah, other than that, like I said, I had the 2 ticks on me when I got home. One was embedded, one was just crawling on me. Both of them were brown-legged ticks or dog ticks, whatever you want to call them, so no worries there. And honestly, that was pretty good considering how far in the woods we were and the terrain and stuff we walked through. Like, we went through a lot of good tick territory, and only to pick up 2 was pretty good. And I know why I picked them up, because I forgot to spray my pants before we walked through it.
Oh, see, I definitely sprayed my pants and ankles.
Yeah, see, I didn't. I didn't until I only sprayed the top of my body. I completely forgot to do my pants because I had them tied. Those were the ripstop ones I had, and they tied at the bottom. And I tied them, and then I put my pack on, forgot all about it. So that's exactly. I know why I picked them up. It was stupidity on my part.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's something to keep in mind. I've been somewhat fortunate in the tick department, but I tell you, I almost have, I wouldn't say a phobia to it, but they do creep me out a bit.
Well, anything that burrows into your skin should probably creep you out to some degree.
I don't remember ever seeing it, and I see, like, Lee Seymour's there. Maybe he can say something, but I never seen ticks growing up in Newfoundland, so mosquitoes and leeches were the worst thing I ever seen, and I'll take those over a tick any day. But
we had a healthy crop of mosquitoes at one point, so... Actually, no, we had more black flies than mosquitoes. It was the black flies.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was our adventure. It went well. Had a lot of fun. Looking forward to many more, hopefully. Like you said, if we get this 4 seasons thing, I'm really going to try and do some sort of hot tent for the winter. That's in the back of my mind that I'm going to try and figure out how to make it run.
I mean, if we could get the snow, I would really be up for was it the Quincy hut style?
Yeah, I would want a better sleeping bag. Actually, I have a good one picked out that I was going to show you. It's good to -23. And it's only like $70 or something.
Wow. Down?
Synthetic down is what they called it, so I don't know what the heck that is.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Uh,
I don't know how good it would be. Even if it was good to -10, I'd be happy.
I got one. It's a Hillary, and it's a nice bag, but it's almost as big as my pack total. Like
That was the
it's,
problem with this. It got pretty big.
but I mean, I guess if you took what they call them the bulk sled and
Mm,
loaded it up, you'd have half a chance.
true.
I don't know what else you could do. There's a few things, but yeah, I think both of us said on the trip that high on our list is a nice, yeah, yeah. My cousin David just threw out their Snug Packs Softy Elite 5, something like that. A nice,
Yeah.
um, so I assume that one's a down.
Just pulling it up now. I assume it must be.
The underquilts are -25 and is very comfortable. So that's
And not that
I
big.
gotta say he mentioned something about Yukon last year. I'm really jealous I wasn't invited on this trip, by the way.
But yeah, so a decent down
Travel.
sleeping bag is probably going to be on both our want
Yeah.
lists eventually. But I may try some of the budget versions, just where that's my thing. Like I said, I might try that $70 one. I may be throwing $70 away. I don't know, but I'll definitely give it a shot. But I will bring a plan B before I test anything like that again. I will have a better plan B in effect because it did get cold that second night, and I wish I had a little more secure plan B. Didn't freeze to death, obviously. I'm here, but would have liked to
So
have been more comfortable.
I did mention a potential solution to that, and I'm definitely going to start doing this. I'm going to start carrying one of these. They're like hand warmers. They're body warmers, I think they're
Yes.
called. I think they're like 8 by 8 inches, and I used one last January at close to -20, and there's a few people that do watch this that know exactly what temperature it was because they were there. Um, oh, he was working. Still no excuse. No, it is. But yeah, something like that tossed in, especially down around your feet, because I think both of us had the same problem. Once the chill got into our feet, it was
Could
there.
not get it out.
No, and it wasn't until we got up and moving around that our feet stopped chilling. I think we both found it close to when we got back to our bikes. Actually, it was quite warm up there.
Yeah, it was. That's what I've been telling everybody. Is there was probably a good 5 degree difference from just down by the waterfall where we were to the top of the hill, getting away from the cool wet air at the bottom. But I think that just about wraps it up for me. Ben, was there anything else you wanted to say? We're coming up on about an hour 15 minutes, so
Yeah, we got to cut her off, I
yeah, we're
guess.
starting to lose viewers.
Anyways, great to see everyone that came, and I hope everyone else who watches it later enjoys it. And we'll definitely be doing more trips, and we'll have more things to talk about. And especially now the summer's coming on, I know I spend a lot more time in the woods, and I'm really looking forward to the fall. So there's a lot coming up. And
Yeah,
it's a
so
spring
even
fall.
if we're not doing anything together, we can still take videos and do some commentary on both sides. And it might be a
Yeah,
fun project, and we'll talk about that in the future. But as for this show, I think that about wraps it up. As Ben said, thanks everybody for their viewing. We were talking about some of our statistics there the other day, and we were a little surprised at them that how many people actually do view these videos. So we really do appreciate it. Um, so look forward to some more videos coming up for our trip on the Facebook page. I will put that longer outro video up on YouTube and then switch it over to Facebook. And yeah, anything else that kind of trickles in from the last of the trip, I will be adding to the page, or I should say, we'll be adding to the page in the next few days, and hopefully it'll all get up there. If you have any questions, same as always, feel free to email us at podcast@atlanticbushcraft.ca or post on the Facebook page or anything like that, and we'll get back to you. We always check it. I know I do. It comes up as soon as we get a message, and I try to jump right back on to see what it was because I get excited. Like, oh, somebody actually talked to us, and off we go. But yeah, so thanks again, guys, and I hope everybody has a good night.
Night all. Take care.